Hey folks, welcome back to the shop. Frank here. Got a short little video for you today. This is a autopsy kind of video. We have an in-ground pool, and I've got a 1 horsepower Hayward super pump, which is the recirculation pump for the pool, and I let the smoke out of it. So I'm going to take it apart, see what happened to it. I don't think it's anything I can fix, but we'll at least see what happened if we can. All right, so this is the pump. Actually, this is the motor, pump, and strainer assembly. Typical of most in-ground pools, it's a strainer basket. It's got some loose parts in there. So the pool water comes in through this end, the suction, goes through this strainer basket, which keeps large parts out of the impeller. The impeller is located right here in this section, and then the discharge comes out here. So it's the suction for the impeller here and the discharge here. And this is the motor. It's not totally enclosed, fan cooled, TEFC. It is drip proof. It has vents on the bottom, but it is weather resistant. At least it sits outside, as most of these do. This is a replacement motor. So a couple of years ago, the previous motor failed, and it was a Hayward brand. This is a Hayward brand strainer assembly and impeller pump. But the motor failed, and I purchased a motor and installed it. And it's a Century motor, thermally protected, runs at 230 volts, 1 horsepower, 3450 RPM. So it's rated continuous duty. This one's made in Thailand. So typical of the motors that come on these pumps, and it's a direct replacement. Certainly Hayward doesn't make their own motors. They purchase motors from somebody, A.O. Smith or somebody, and they assemble them. So I had a spare. I keep a spare on hand. These do fail on a regular basis. They are in a pretty rugged duty because they're sitting outside. I do not have an enclosed pump house. Some people do, but since I have a pool heater as well, it needs outside air to operate. So there's no pump house. So this sits out in the weather, and this is probably, I'm going to say 3 or 4 years old. I'm going to say it's the cover's gone. I took it off in order to undo the electrical connections. So let's take it apart. I don't see anything burn up here, but we'll get into the motor a little bit and see what we can find. First thing we do is take the motor off the pump, separate the pump housing from the strainer assembly. So these are nice stainless bolts, 3/8 inch. Let's see what happens here. All right, comes apart. So this is the impeller shroud, and this of course is the impeller. And it's spinning, but I can feel resistance, more resistance than there should be. All right, let's go ahead and separate the motor. So we need to get the impeller off the end of the, because it's screwed on the shaft, and you can see it spins this way, so it should unscrew the same direction. So what I'm going to do, since I'm not trying to save this motor, I'm going to, there's a little centrifugal switch here, and it's got a screw and it's pinned to the shaft, the motor shaft. So I'm just going to put a screwdriver in here to block it from turning. You can see this centrifugal switch turning. So I'm going to go in the other direction, block it from turning. Okay, there we go. I don't know, this is like plastic. This is like plastic. There's the seal, the rear seal. That's a ceramic seal. And this seal face is pretty worn. We definitely had leakage past this. Wow. Definitely leakage past that seal. And of course, you know, the pool water is chlorinated. So four very long screws that go all the way through the housing. A lot of corrosion down here. I don't see anything wrong with the start capacitor. Yeah. Whoa. Okay. Loosening that a little bit to get this capacitor out of the way. And one more. Sometimes those are so rusted they break, they snap. But this being only a couple of years old, all right, let's take a different approach here and try to remove this screw. So this is the centrifugal switch. As the motor spins, this makes a contact, pushes these contacts together here for the starting circuit. And as it spins up, this weight moves out from centrifugal force, releasing this button, which releases the contacts here and keeps the run circuit energized. All right, there's the armature. See if we can see anything. I don't see any. No idea what that is. These windings look pretty good. I don't see any burn marks on there. See if I can get you a closer look. I don't really see any badly burned windings though. These are just colored down here, dark. So perhaps what was going on was, because of the corrosion here, this bearing and the impeller, the corrosion on the impeller seal was keeping the motor from turning. You can see how rusted this is. That ball bearing feels fine. But I won't say that about the other one. So I'm going to say that the corrosion in the impeller and the seal up front created a high resistance, kept the motor from starting, possibly even a weakened capacitor. Perhaps even this capacitor went bad. But once you let out the smoke, even if you can replace the capacitor, and if the capacitor is not what smoked, there's no evidence. I don't see any evidence in here of anything burning or swelling. So it's likely not that the capacitor smoked, the windings overheated. And as soon as that happens, the insulation breaks down and you start getting internal shorts. And then at the point I took it out, it was tripping the circuit breaker. It was smoking and tripping the circuit breaker. After I reset it, it would hum for a few seconds and then trip the breaker. So definitely done. I think it's probably beyond repair here. Certainly the motor's shot. It's not worth fixing. The impeller the impeller is certainly reusable. Place the seal assembly on the back side here. And that impeller, if it's the same size as the one on the replacement, that's a possible. But you know, these never wear out. The impeller never wears out. It's the seal on the back here, the bearings in the motor. So I'm going to say this motor failed prematurely, but it was due to a pump leak. Pump seal was shot, let chlorinated water, which is corrosive, back into the motor, to the motor bearings. And since the housing is designed like this, you don't see the leak on top. You have to turn the motor over or look underneath it to see the leak, because that's where these vents are, and any water past the seal would leak out down there and not be noticeable. Perhaps if this had been mounted on a location with a concrete floor or something, you would have seen water running across the floor. But since this is outside, you never notice the water. So well, got 3 years of service out of 3 or 4 years of service out of it, and replaced it with a whole new assembly. I don't think I lost anything. When I replaced this motor 3 or 4 years ago, I did disassemble it, and I did not see leakage past the seals like this. So that developed after I replaced it. Well, I don't see any obvious dramatically burned windings. I think the fact that it was tripping the breaker was indication that we had breakdown of the insulation on the windings to the point where it was shorting out. And the resistance in the armature turning due to the bad bearings and all the corrosion would keep it from starting. And of course that would increase the current draw, which is what overheats the windings, which creates the problem. So I would trace this back to bearing failure due to leaking pump seal and corrosive water, chlorinated water getting into the motor bearings. Okay, that's it. I'm going to clean up, and this goes in the trash. All right, folks, that's it. Real quick video on autopsy of this pool pump, motor pump assembly. Diagnosis from this coroner is rear seal failure on the impeller caused corrosive fluid to enter the motor bearings, increasing the torque required to start the motor, either causing the start capacitor to fail, which potentially also caused the motor windings to overheat. Now I know the motor windings overheated because there was smoke pouring out of this motor and it was tripping the breaker. So it's done, the motor's done. The only thing, and I kept it because I thought I would take it apart, see what happened, one, and two, maybe keep some parts from it for future. The only thing worth saving here, I mean, maybe the pump housing, but the filter strainer assembly, but I've got a new one in. Maybe the impeller, but you know, the impeller never fails, so I don't see any reason to keep that. I've got another spare. I've got one installed that I had as my spare, and I keep another spare. So I have another spare in the garage in case the one I just installed fails, which it will. I mean, they have a limited life. You know, the motors, this is probably the third. So I'm on my fourth motor and third pump assembly in 11 years. So what are the average 3 years? I mean, pretty short life on them. I mean, they're pumping a corrosive liquid, chlorinated water. So it's about the best you can expect. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that little disassembly. And we'll see you guys next time.